If you want to understand where the AI economy is going, stop staring at the chat window and look at the power meter. Because this week's biggest story isn't a new prompt trick. It's NVIDIA teaming with data center operator IREN to push up to 5 gigawatts of AI infrastructure. 5 gigawatts. That's utility scale. That's rewire the map scale.
And that number matters because it's not just more GPUs, it's a full factory model. NVIDIA's DSX AI factory architecture paired with IREN's pipeline. When you see gigawatts attached to model training and inference, you're watching AI shift from software feature to industrial base layer.
Also, NVIDIA got a 5-year right to buy up to 30 million shares at $70 a share. That's up to $2.1 billion of optionality. This isn't flirting. This is we're getting married to the power story. Narrator, VO. Hey, welcome to your AI future. The AI revolution isn't coming, it's here, and it's moving fast. But here's the good news. You don't have to figure it out alone. Every episode, we break down exactly what's changing, how it hits your career and your daily life, and the real steps you can take right now to stay ahead. This transition leads to abundance, and we're going to help you get there. Let's go.
Now zoom out. While the infrastructure expands, companies are simultaneously using agentic systems to restructure headcount. Cloudflare just cut about 1,100 jobs, roughly 20%, explicitly crediting AI productivity gains. So you have the supply side scaling up and the demand side reorganizing work around what these systems can do.
Let's start with the boring stuff that decides everything. Capacity. NVIDIA and IREN talking about up to 5 gigawatts is basically saying, we're planning for AI demand that looks like a new class of heavy industry. This is the same kind of language you hear in aluminum smelting or petrochemicals.
And it also suggests standardization. NVIDIA doesn't just want to sell chips, it wants a repeatable AI factory pattern. Compute, networking, software, power, cooling, operations. So that startups and enterprises can rent or deploy capacity without reinventing the data center wheel each time.
The Texas detail jumped out to me too. A 2-gigawatt Sweetwater campus as a flagship deployment. That's a real place where permitting, grid interconnects, and land constraints become the gating factor. So the question for business leaders becomes, do you have a compute strategy the way you have a real estate strategy?
And for AI teams, it changes what feasible means. When you have abundant inference, you can shift from one model answers one question to swarms of specialized agents that do planning, tool use, retrieval, verification, all in parallel. That's where the productivity claims we're seeing start to make sense.
Which brings us to enterprise services. CIO is reporting OpenAI and Anthropic, pushing beyond selling access to models, offering applied engineering, use case discovery, custom system building. That's a classic move when the core technology gets commoditized. You sell the implementation, not just the engine.
Exactly. And it's also a response to reality. Most enterprises fail not because the model is too weak, but because the workflow is messy. Data quality, permissions, evaluation, change management. Services can get the project over the line.
So here's the practical step. If you're a company leader, stop thinking in pilot projects and start thinking in capacity allocation. How much budget and governance do you assign to AI the way you assign to cloud?
Cloudflare is the clearest example this week of what I'll call the agentic reorg. TechCrunch reports Cloudflare cut about 1,100 jobs, about 20%, and their CEO framed it as defining how a high-growth company creates value in the agentic AI era.
And they didn't pair that with the businesses collapsing. They reported record quarterly revenue, $639.8 million, up 34% year over year. So we're watching a company say, revenue is good, but the labor model is changing.
They also claimed internal AI usage increased more than 600% in 3 months, and that autonomous agents review 100% of code produced via Cloudflare workers that gets deployed into products. That's the operational shift. Not AI helps, but AI is inserted as a required control point.
Which is a management decision. You're effectively moving from human-based QA capacity to machine-based QA capacity. That changes the unit economics. Fewer people can ship more software, but the organization needs different roles. More product judgment, more systems thinking, fewer routine support functions.
The important nuance, this isn't replace everyone, it's replace certain task categories. And that's why the services arms of AI labs matter. If you're going to restructure workflows, you need a playbook, not a demo.
For listeners, if you're in a role that is primarily coordination, routing, or triage, especially in support, you should assume automation pressure. The defense is to become the person who designs the automation, measures it, and owns the risk. Let's talk robots, because this is where the gigawatts turn into physical labor. The LA Times reports 1X opened a 58,000 square foot factory in Hayward, California, aiming to build 10,000 humanoid robots in its first year, and targeting 100,000 by the end of 2027.
That's a huge jump from cool prototype to supply chain. And note the timing, shipments expected by the end of 2026. So the near-term story is not every home gets a robot tomorrow, but manufacturing capability is being built now.
And there's a deployment lever. The article says, EQT plans to deploy 10,000 of the robots to its portfolio companies. That's basically an internal customer network, a way to guarantee early demand and collect operational data.
Meanwhile, Figure published an update saying its Bot Q facility delivered over 350 third-generation Figure O3 humanoids and increased output from 1 per day to 1 per hour in under 120 days, a 24x throughput improvement. That's manufacturing learning curves kicking in.
And it's not just quantity. They cited quality metrics like over 80% end-of-line first-pass yield and 99.3% first-pass yield on their battery line. Those are the kinds of details you only publish if you're serious about scaling.
From an AI standpoint, more robots shipped means more data. Figure says units are allocated for internal R&D, data collection, end-to-end housework efforts, and commercial use case development. That's the embodied AI flywheel. Deployment creates data. Data improves autonomy. Autonomy increases deployment.
The business implication. Labor markets will feel this first in constrained environments. Warehouses, manufacturing lines, facilities maintenance. Where tasks are repetitive and the ROI is trackable. The consumer story comes later.
Now regulation. The European Commission's AI Act timeline is the clearest compliance clock right now. Prohibited practices and AI literacy obligations have applied since February 2, 2025. General-purpose AI model obligations have applied since August 2, 2025. And the Act becomes fully applicable August 2, 2026, with an extended transition to August 2, 2027 for high-risk AI embedded in regulated products.
Translation. If you sell into Europe, you don't get to ignore this until 2026. Some obligations are already live, and the governance expectations are being set now.
In the US, the story is fragmentation. Transparency Coalition's May update highlights Connecticut SB 5 moving forward. It includes disclosure requirements for subscription AI products, safety obligations and whistleblower protections for frontier AI developers, extra safeguards for minors using chatbots, and labeling rules for AI-generated material.
And Iowa signed SF 2417 into law, focused on conversational AI service requirements. So for businesses, it's not one single federal rulebook. It's a patchwork. That means compliance has to be built into product design and rollout processes.
The key point for builders, provenance, disclosure, and documentation aren't optional nice-to-haves anymore. They're becoming the admission ticket to sell in certain markets.
Let's hit longevity. One reason I care. It's a sector that tends to soak up compute, drug discovery, imaging, biomarkers. Longevity. Technology reports Q1 2026 saw 49 financing events in longevity biotech, with about $3.74 billion raised across the 41 events that disclose sizes.
And they suggest full year 2026 could land around $8 to $9 billion. So capital is clearly warming back up, which matters because longevity needs long timelines and expensive trials.
Meanwhile, Biospace covered Rubito Life Sciences' preliminary Phase 1 results for RLS 1496, a GPX4 modulator. They're positioning it as targeting pathologic senescent, or aged, cells, with signals across plaque psoriasis, atopic dermatitis, and photo-aged skin.
They reported the study met its primary endpoint and was well tolerated with no serious adverse events, plus dose-related target engagement and biomarker changes. To be clear, early-stage trials are not a guarantee of success, but it's an example of the direction. Therapies framed around cellular aging mechanisms, not just symptom management.
Big picture. AI infrastructure expands. Labor is reorganized by agents. Robots start to scale, and biotech funding follows the promise of translating computation into real-world outcomes like healthier years.
Quick hits. 1. Anthropic says it signed a new agreement with Google and Broadcom for multiple gigawatts of next-generation TPU capacity expected to come online starting in 2027. More evidence that compute access is a strategic moat.
2. Microsoft is pushing harder on Copilot commercialization. In its Partner Center announcements, Microsoft outlined packaging and deal mechanics, including a push to renew before July 1st to lock pricing. And it lowered the minimum Copilot purchase threshold for a 40% discount from 1,500 to 1,000 licenses. That's get AI everywhere via licensing in action.
And 3. Watch provenance requirements. We're seeing multiple state measures and EU rules converging on disclosure and traceability for generated media. If you build anything customer-facing with generation, assume you'll need labeling, logs, and documentation.
Chowker. Narrator. Vayo. Look, this change is real, and it's not slowing down. But you showed up, you're paying attention, and that puts you ahead of most people already. If this episode helped you, do me a favor, hit subscribe, ring that bell, and share this with someone you care about. Because the more people who prepare for this, the better we all come out on the other side. Abundance is where this ends. Let's get there together. This is your AI future.